You got to examine your limiting beliefs, the stories that we're telling ourselves. Are you nervous in social situations because you always told yourself you're nervous and you're shy? Do you tell yourself you could never be brave enough to public speak, right? These are the beliefs that are holding us back from the life of confidence. The truth of the matter is we are completely in charge, right, of how we feel. And that includes whether or not we feel confident. That's what I really want to get into today. Once you start understanding that your feelings are within your control, right, you'll be on your way to understanding like how to become more confident. And again, I mentioned this for those of you guys that just joined. Confidence is not something you're born with, guys. It's something that you create. Okay, it's not something you're born with, it's something you create. And so building confidence, right, creates the feeling of certainty that you can accomplish what you set out to do. And it's like any other emotion, right? It's something you feel, and you can train yourself to access that in an instant, right? Tony Robbins says, we can change our lives, we can do, have, and be exactly what we wish. If you believe that's true, it's going to be true. And if you don't believe that's true, that's also going to be true, right? Both things can be true. The way you start learning to do that is also discovering your purpose, right? And understanding why is gaining confidence important to you? Like, are you like me where you're presenting in front of a group of large people all the time? Maybe in person, right? We just had our first in-person event, guys. I'd never done an in-person event. I'm going to be honest. I was a little bit nervous, right? It's like, oh, it's the first event. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to go, right? There's so much happening there. Is it maybe like you're in a leadership position right now and you know you need to have a strong sense of confidence, right? Which is what essentially leadership is. Are you on an offer right now that you need to close, right? That has KPIs, or that you know, hey, I need to be dialed in at a certain percentage, or this is what I need to be doing, right? The first step is in building confidence, like understanding why you want to achieve it. And once you know why you want to achieve it, learning how to be confident becomes a matter of just retraining your brain, right? In order to accomplish your goals, you got to present yourself as a confident person, right? There's no other way to do it. You got to ignore the uncertainty that holds you back, second guessing yourself, right? The hesitancy, the doubt, the fear. You got to let go of the negative thoughts that are holding you back, right? Next thing you know, once you let go of that, you'll just feel a lot better. You'll stand up straighter. You'll stop fidgeting, right? Your body will begin to feel a positive feedback loop, right? These are the patterns we've talked about in the past. And it's all about starting to develop these new patterns that are going to serve you versus the ones that are not serving you right now. And confidence really just means changing your outlook, right? Learning how to be confident is a process of uncovering your beliefs and your self-doubt. What kind of questions are you asking yourself, right? Is it like, oh man, like how come I'm not successful? Oh man, how come I'm not smart enough? Oh man, does everyone kind of see me as a failure, right? And you got to shift these patterns of thinking to like, dude, like why shouldn't I set and accomplish everything that I set my mind to? Why would I waste time on my anxieties instead of focusing on my strengths? When you ask a better question, you get a better answer. Whatever you hold in your mind on a consistent basis will be exactly the thing that you're going to experience in life. This means, guys, that you need to have a growth mindset, okay? Or the belief that you can develop the knowledge to improve your skill sets, right? When you view your challenges as opportunities to learn something new, you're going to be able to approach them with assurance. And then you start to view these setbacks, right, as progress. So they become a part of mastering how you start building that confidence. There's one incredible trick that, will help you figure out how to be more confident when you're at the lowest, right? And that's going to be thinking about something you're most proud of. You better be going and listen to the calls that you freaking closed and slam those deals. The $17,000 package, the $10,000 package, right? You got to go back and remind yourself of the freaking badass you were, right? That's what's going to help build your confidence. So what can you think of in your life right now that you've been most proud of? And those are the things you got to start thinking about again and remind yourself that I can be that person, right? And that's going to start helping you build confidence. Remember a recent accomplishment of any scale, right? Remember what you did that was impressive, right? Whether you helped a family member, maybe you helped someone out, right? Guys, the smallest amount of headway moves your, leaps and bounds when you're learning how to gain confidence. So your mind begins to start thinking in positive terms, right? As opposed to negative ones, right? If you gave a killer presentation to your company last year, right? Why wouldn't you be able to complete your next project with the deadline that you have in front of you, right? I'm someone who struggled with this a lot because of how I grew up and the things that were instilled in me. My parents were immigrants. They escaped communism, right? They had a scarcity mindset when they came here, and no fault of their own. It's just what they seen and what they knew. So it's just what I was taught naturally growing up, right? But I'm here to tell you that you're in charge of your emotions and you can use them to shape your life however you choose, right? And you have to just decide. It's a decision. So I'm going to give you guys some strategies for building confidence, right? There's a few that Tony Robbins talks about. I'm going to give you a few of them. And number one is knowing your values. Yeah, part of the problem when we have self-doubt is not understanding to the core, like who we are. So to truly learn how to be confident, you must know what your values are. Are they loyalty? Is it appreciation? Is it creativity, right? Stop thinking that values like compassion and generosity are weaknesses, right? Instead, like start taking pride in them because that's what makes you uniquely you. We're all different, right? We all have things that we're going to be better at than others. My old mentor used to call this like, what's in your 5%? Like the thing that you're really good at, right? That like I can crush this thing, right? That's your 5%. That's the area that you can accelerate the most, where it's like everything else you're not necessarily as good at, you could be good at, but what's in that 5%? And strong decision making is also, right, a part of this. And when you make a decision, guys, like just decide and stick with it. Don't change the decision that you made, because when you make a promise to yourself and you don't keep it, that's going to really affect your self-identity, your self-image, and it's going to reduce that confidence, right? When you're living with your own standards, you'll have absolute certainty, right? And you'll be able to find passion and purpose in the things that you're doing. So know your values, all that to say, right? Know those values, write down and think about what some of those values are for you. This is a harder part, right? But you got to accept your emotions. When you're learning how to be more confident, it's tempting to focus on your ideal self, right? The person that you wish you were, right? The superhero who doesn't experience the fear or the doubt or the shame, right? While managing negative emotions is certainly part of building confidence, shutting down your feelings isn't going to help. So the first step is mastering emotions, is actually let yourself feel the emotions, right? Guys, we all have thoughts, right? Our brain's like an antenna. We have these thoughts that are just coming and going. It doesn't recognize whether they're good or bad thoughts, right? So we have to accept those emotions for how they come, right? And when you accept yourself unconditionally, you'll be able to look at your feelings objectively, right? Not subjectively, objectively, and realize that they're there to teach you something. The lack of confidence in your brain is actually there because it's protecting you from embarrassment, from discomfort, right? And it's a signal that it's time to get outside of your comfort zone, right? And face your fears. Man, if you could just do that, and face those fears, guys, I promise you so much will change in your life. If you just do the thing that you're nervous about, that you're not sure about, getting outside of that comfort zone, that's going to be a game changer. I promise you. Practicing positive thinking, right? That's the third thing on the list. I'm a freaking positive thinker. I don't know. I guess I could choose not to be, is what I realized when Rich asked me a question on my podcast episode where I got interviews, where did this stem from, or how did this come? I think I just had a lot of life experience, and I've just realized, well, dude, I've been down the other path and I could choose to be this way, but how the heck is that really serving me? When you're building confidence, you got to learn how to reframe your mindset, right? And start thinking more positively and feel like self-assured as a result. You got to examine your limiting beliefs, the stories that we're telling ourselves. Are you nervous in social situations because you always told yourself you're nervous and you're shy? Do you tell yourself you could never be brave enough to public speak? I kind of went through that last week a little bit, but I had to overcome some of that. And I didn't maybe do 100%, but that's okay. I'll have opportunities to get as close to that as possible, right? These are the beliefs that are holding us back from the life of confidence. So if you find yourself asking negative, limiting questions when it's time to be confident, you got to stop yourself. Stop, right? Then think about something positive that you can tell yourself. And we begin focusing on all the reasons that you'll succeed instead of all the reasons that you could fail. It may be awkward at first, right? But if you just repeat that positive self-talk, like the more you're going to believe it. But it's one thing to just say that we're going to do it. It's another thing to actually do it, right? Those are two separate things, right? I talk to a lot of people that come in and they say they want to land a six-figure gig. Respectfully, have you done any of the work, right? Most people haven't. All the time, I ask people like, what kind of activity have you done? How many applications have you sent out, right? And it's usually like none or one a day or a half a day, right? And I'll do one in 3 days, right? These are some of the patterns that I start seeing, right? But these are habits that we can develop and change. And so that's important to recognize and understand. Another piece of it is like changing your physiology, right? Even if you don't feel confident all the time, right? You can appear to be confident when needed by body language. I'm sure you guys recognize how much body language I'm always using here, right? That's just how I kind of talk, and that's just how I do it. But it projects, right, confidence through the action that I'm doing right now. If you guys see, right? The degree to which you're going to feel those actions makes the confidence feel real as well. So you can trick your brain into feeling confident, right? To actually put this principle into action, right, you got to tell yourself, right, that you're capable of achieving your goal. Take a deep breath, right? Throw your shoulders back, and you can even adopt a new power pose, right? And put your hand on your hips, right? Focus on feeling confident, right, when you're projecting it. So with practice, it'll become a natural thing. I've shared this many times. I didn't become this person overnight, right? I put in a lot of time to develop myself. I'm invested in a lot of coaching programs. Like between Rich and myself, we've invested a lot, guys. Like tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars is an understatement for how much money we've spent on ourselves to improve ourselves and our skill sets, right? So we practice what we preach. And because we're aligned with that, it helps us build that confidence because we're doing the things that we're telling you guys to do. We're not just telling you guys to do it. We're actually doing the things ourselves. And that's a part of building the confidence. So the two last ones are going to be, practicing your communication skills. It's no accident that confidence and effective communication are both essential to being a good leader, to being confident. They complement each other. These skills are critical, right, to achieving confidence, and how to learn to be confident in pivotal and succeeding spots in your career. Whether you work in sales, management, another role, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to communicate with self-assurance. And communication is a vital soft skill, right, that allows you to build rapport with others. And it's less about talking, right? And it's more about listening. Communication, guys, especially in sales calls, like we're all here because, we're in some way, shape, or form either in sales or looking to get into sales. But communication involves respect, compassion, empathy, deep listening, right? It means you're going to be learning not necessarily how to mirror, but, how to build a sense of solidarity with this person. And when you feel good about your communication skills, you're mastering how you gain the confidence with every single interaction that you have. And then the last piece here is reevaluating your blueprint. So we all have a blueprint in life. We all want a certain career. We all want a certain family. We all want a certain income, certain possessions, and we all want it on a certain timeline, right? And when we don't get those things on the timeline that we want, it becomes our greatest source of pain. What if we could let go of this need for control and just be grateful instead, right? Back to practicing the gratitude. And one of my mentors, I'm going to end it on this, he's always shared with me, and it makes sense. And I'm like, oh, he probably got it from Tony Robbins. It's control what you can, cope with what you can't, and concentrate on what counts. And that couldn't be more relevant for me during COVID. Rich had left to go open up his Fit Body Bootcamp and start his own Fit Body Bootcamp. We were selling franchises together. He was so bought into what he was doing. He's like, I'm going to open up my own freaking gym. The very franchise that I'm selling, right? I'm going to go open one of these and spend $200,000, my entire life savings that I have, into building this gym out. COVID hit. Who would have thought that most people had to make the biggest pivots in their life and shift or just not know what to do next, right? What he did in that moment was control what he can, right? Which was, hey, I'm not going to let this dictate my future. What can I control? Well, he can control finding another way to generate income was the first thing that came to his mind. And so what he did is he hit up a client of Bedros's that he had known through the network, right? Relationships network. And he said, hey, Robbie, do you need help selling any of your products? Can I help you sell any of your products? Robbie said, yes. Right? So he was controlling what he can and he was coping with what he can't, which was COVID at the time. Right? That was something nobody can control, guys. And so what he did is concentrate on what counted. What can I do to pivot and make this change? Right? Instead of adopting the woe me, why did this happen to me? I put my entire life savings into this thing, blaming it on God or blaming it on this or blaming it on that, right? Whatever the thing is. He didn't choose to do any of that. He chose to do that exact thing, which is, hey, man, I'm going to control what I can, cope with what I can, and concentrate on what counts. And if we can just live by that mindset and truly understand that nothing in our life is really within our control except the activity that we're doing, right? And letting go of that, it's going to be a very powerful component in building that confidence.